Hey there, this is gonna be a cosplay tutorial how I created Oathkeeper and Oblivion from Kingdom Hearts. I used a box cutter, sanding paper and a heat gun to create all this. You will see me use a jigsaw, rotary tool and scalpel as well, but those are not tools you necessarily have to work with. I just like to use them in addition to make some things easier. First of all, I wanted to get a bit more familiar with the props I were going to create, so I looked up a bunch of designs online and got more familiar with the overall design and the smaller details of it. Once I got a general idea of how the prop looked like, I took a 2D picture of the design and made a template using Inkscape, just tracing the edges and making a vector file, so I could scale it up and print it out properly. Once I had my vector file, I scaled that up to about 1 meter and printed everything out. Using the template I've created and the black permanent marker, I traced the design on the 3 centimeter thick sheet of insulation foam. So the first thing I had to do is cut along the outline I traced to 3 big pieces that will ultimately become my prop from the whole sheet. This is the part where I used the jigsaw to cut everything out. I'm doing this because jigsaw cuts at the perfect 90-degree angle, so the flip side of my prop will have the exact same measurements as the top side. But for this part you can also just use a box cutter. It basically does the same job and the result is fairly similar, but it's just not that convenient and not that precise. So if you don't already have the power tools like a Dremel or jigsaw, you don't necessarily have to invest in them. The box cutter will perform just fine. So the next part is basically just looking at the design I have, looking at my template and figuring out which areas to cut away, which to sand, and it's basically just a whole bunch of figuring stuff out. The sandpapers I'm using to sand this are 120 and 240 grit, because if I would go any lower I would just rip the insulation foam apart and won't get a good result. There were a few areas where it was fairly hard to cut or to sand just with the box cutter and sanding paper, so at some areas, especially at the top of Oblivion, I used the Dremel tool to get the shape that I wanted. Just like the jigsaw, the Dremel tool or rotary tool, whatever you want to call it, wasn't 100% necessary. You could achieve nearly the same thing just with a box cutter and sanding paper, but it was really convenient to have. Even so, I was more careful than with other projects because there are a lot of delicate edges and delicate little details on it. I broke some parts off and took a bit too much material at some points, so I needed to fix that. I used some foam clay to fix some areas, fill some holes, and made some details at areas where I messed up with my shaping and cutting, so I wouldn't have that much cleaning up to do in the next step. I think the last thing I've done at this stage was to add some additional details with 5mm foam sheets like the little hearts on the handle of Oathkeeper. To make the whole prop more durable, I used a material called Warbler. It's basically a thermoplastic that gets soft at about 70 degrees Celsius. So I used the heat gun to soften it up and just cover everything. When the material is hot, it sticks to itself, so I could just create 2 sheets that are about the size of the prop, heat them both up, and just press them together at the edge so they would stick together and cover the whole thing. For this step, it's extremely important that you don't expose the insulation foam. to the heat of the heat gun directly without a layer of Warbler on top, because at high temperatures the material collapses and you will ruin the whole shape you've created before. You'll see me pressing the Warbler against the isolation foam with this little plastic thing. It's nothing really important. You can use nearly anything for this, a pen, a pencil, or anything like that. It's just so I won't burn my hands on the hot material. The problem with Warbler is that it has a bit of a texture to its surface, and for the keyblades I didn't want that. So, to get rid of the surface, I used a filler called Spritzspachtel, but any filler or foundation is okay for that. I basically sprayed the whole thing and then took a whole bunch of time to sand everything down to get a smooth finish on the whole surface. And if you applying any kind of spray, if it's filament or paint, just be sure to spray outdoors or wear a respirator so you won't breathe in all the particles. I forgot it the first time around. It's really stupid. Just get yourself a respirator or wear some type of cloth or towel over your mouth so you won't breathe in all the particles. This sanding step took forever. I sanded about 2 to 3 hours on both keyblades just to get a smooth surface, and I used a 120 grit sandpaper, so the results were quite good and I was really proud of them. The next and last part on the list is painting the prop, and that's probably my least favorite part of creating any kind of prop. So first I wanted a good surface to paint on. The filler, the sanded filler, is not the greatest surface because you will have a lot of dust and stuff on that still, and the paint will not grip as good as you want it to on the surface. The product I always use to get a good foundation for the acrylic paint I'm using is Plastidip, and it's a thin layer of rubber that you also spray on the prop. So the black stuff you see me spraying on the 2 keyblades here is Plastidip. So there are a few little tricks working with Plastidip. First of all, I try to heat up the can before I apply it, because when it's too cold outside or the can is too cold, the layer of Plastidip won't apply evenly. Probably the smartest way to heat up the can of Plastidip is to boil some water, let it cool down for about a minute, and then put the can inside so it will heat up more or less safely. I think I applied 3 coats of Plastidip before I started painting the prop, just to be sure I have a good foundation. I think I forgot to record the last one, but you get the point. It's just spraying on the Plastidip and hoping the surface is even. So the last part is literally watching paint dry. I'm not a crazy genius at painting and coloring props, so I don't feel comfortable explaining all the techniques I've used, because mostly it was just applying paint with a brush. There are probably better people to tell you how to get a good paint job, but yeah, just a quick look how that looks like. Yeah, and that's basically it. So I probably link to all the paints and all the material I used that I got online in the descriptions, and I hope I can find 2 of my acrylic paints that I bought at a local store. 2 because I really love them, the gold and the silver. Those are paints that I always use and bought time and time again, so hope I can find them anywhere. To seal and secure the paint job, I used a clear coat, I think a ultra glossy one I picked up at a local hardware store, but just some clear coat to protect everything so the paint job won't chip off or get damaged. Yeah, but that's about it. That's the whole progress of creating those two keyblades. I'm really happy with the result, and those are two props I really love. I'm a bit sad those were commissions that I have to give them away, but I hope this tutorial helped a bit with creating your own project, your own part, or just entertain for a bit, I guess. And if there are any questions or things you wanted to know, things I didn't explain properly because of my shitty English and German accent, just write a comment down below or DM me on my Instagram account, which you'll probably see here. Yeah, but I don't really know how to end this, so have a great day or something. Bye!